much. Such an emergency all across our state right now, especially with the flooding. And in Webbers Falls, mandatory evacuations are now underway. Officials say anyone who stays should write their name and emergency information on their arm in permanent marker. That's how serious they're taking this. And now we have several barges that are loose in the navigation channel, and they're headed toward the Webbers Falls Lock and Dam. 2 Works View's Christy Maria checking in live from Webbers Falls once again. And Chris, what's the latest? I know those barges weren't too far upriver from you.
Karen, the suspicion is that they aren't too far upriver, but we've learned from local first responders that it's possible that they've lost the barges entirely. They don't know where they are. It's possible the barges have stopped somewhere upriver because they were supposed to be close last we heard, but about a half hour ago, local first responders lost contact with those barges. You can see what we can see right now, Webbers Falls, Webbers Falls Dam, which isn't a ton. It's just the gates themselves, which actually seem to have gone up since we got out here a couple hours ago. Now, that could be because they want to level out the water from the north side and the south side of the dam, but it could also be in response to the water from Keystone Dam that is now getting here, that is now arriving here, that we were already expecting. And that was the reason for those mandatory evacuations earlier. Before we were evacuated, there was another round of evacuations when there was word that these barges were coming down the Arkansas River. Now, the reason I say that is because we were in Webbers Falls a little while ago. It was a couple hours ago now. I've lost track at this point. But we were in Webbers Falls, and sheriff's deputies came up to us and told us, you have to leave now. When they hadn't been hasty, they had been just kind of just talking with people in the city who were choosing to stay. They'd been really easygoing until they were telling all of us, look, you need to get out. This is not an argument. This is not a debate. You need to get out of here. There are barges heading down the Arkansas River toward the Webbers Falls Dam. And that's when we knew, obviously, we had to get out of there. And that's when we set up here. And there have been several updates of people thinking that they were going to be a half hour away, 5 minutes away, 10 minutes away, even 2 minutes away. But they were all false alarms. And at this point, the suspicion is that the barges could possibly be up on shore in one of the bends up the river. If you were tuning into one of the earlier newscasts here on 2 Works for You, you saw up the river there were some bends in the river in the last 4 or so miles it takes for these barges to get to the Webbers Falls Dam. And the suspicion is that they're caught on one of those, which would be great news if they are stuck on there, but we have no idea definitively right now. All we know is that there were people, employees of the dam, up on the dam itself and up on the shoreline who were shining floodlights onto the water, onto the north side of the dam, and they're not doing that anymore. They're not even searching the water anymore. So that's it's making people up here, we have a pretty good group around us, that's making people up here kind of anxious, like what's going on. It's caused a lot of speculation. And so all we know is right now that about a half hour, 40 minutes ago, local law enforcement, first responders lost sight of those barges, and they weren't too far. It sounded like they weren't too far upstream when that happened. So that's what we know right now. We still see local law enforcement flashing lights about 4 miles upstream that we were able to see during the daytime. We can't see anything besides their flashing lights there. They remain there tonight. They're still down there, and so that's kind of been our sign. If they move at all, then we're going to know that something is happening, or we're going to suspect that something is happening or has happened. And they stay there, and the people that have been walking up and down the dam, that have been raising the gates, that have been doing maintenance on the dam, continue to do that, and they continue to seemingly raise the gates. We're not sure what that's doing in Webbers Falls right now, but hopefully after the scare of the barges coming down the river, that Webbers Falls and the areas downstream of this dam are actually evacuated. And so we had heard from local first responders and law enforcement that those towns, the towns that are right along the river here downstream of the dam, have been evacuated and have been forcefully evacuated after the mandatory evacuation. But we obviously have no way to tell that because we're up here. We can see a couple of floodlights actually shining on the water again now, but nothing like the activity that was going on here a little while ago. We continue to keep you updated on Facebook Live as well. If anything does happen, we'll have you on air and online. But that's the update that we know right now. That's all we know. That's about a half hour now now 40 minutes ago, just about, that local first responders and law enforcement lost sight of the barges somewhere upriver on the Arkansas River. And we'll continue to keep you updated, especially if they come back into sight in the last few hundred yards toward that dam. We'll take that live and we'll have those images right here. But for now, Karen, I'll send it back into you.